Hello everyone, and welcome to another Starcraft 2 replay. This one's going to take place on Typhoon Peaks. I am the blue Terran, Ketroc spawning in the bottom right hand position. And in the top right we have Dunpeel, the red Zerg. So something I noticed in my live sessions is that I often end up being versus Zerg. And then I'll say, well, if I spawn in like the close rush distance, then I'll just two-base push them. And of course that never actually happens, so we just end up seeing mass ravens over and over again. So even though there is no close rush distance on Typhoon Peaks, being as it's a large map, when I do spawn vertically from Zerg, I will attack them. As what you can do is you can blow out this back rocks and it leaves this nice little channel. Blow out these rocks and you can come straight in. And this channel is good for two reasons. One is it really shortens the rush distance, where it's almost like steps of war distance. And two is it doesn't allow for really any flanking. To flank you'd actually have to come into my natural and hit me from behind. So Zerg can't like use its mobility to come in at you from multiple angles. So obviously I'm not experienced with playing Terran in the more standard sense, so this is kind of my compromise. Is what I'll still do my Planetary Fortress fast expand, but I'll transition into a two-base push rather than Ravens. So I'm just going to go the classic, Marine tank Medivac sort of push. So coming in, and I did spot that drone, so I see him hiding in the corner. That's a smart move. What they do is they hide in the corner, so when you come in to scout, they just zip down the ramp and put down the hatchery. But I did see him. Now, often you get in attacks with drones, and whoever gets the first hit off is one who's going to win the attack. So I wanted to get the first hit off, but look what happens here. He attacks, and he stops after the attack. And look at the separation he has. Even though I'm clicked right here immediately, I don't get there in time, and that's so frustrating. I spot the drone, and he's still able to get his hatchery down. You can probably kite with the SCV, so where as soon as he starts his attack animation, then you move the SCV. That way he won't stop as long, and they won't get that big separation. So I do leave, though. I got all the information I want. I mean, obviously he's going for a 15 hatch. He may have been forced to throw down the pool first, which is kind of a win for me, but I don't know. During that time, I was a little bit late on my own command center, so what I did is I put down my gas first, since I could afford it, then my command center, and I'm just going to work off the one gas to start. Since I actually went first, and if I fully saturate, I should still have 150 gas in time, or pretty close to in time, and that allows me to get my barracks down much sooner, as I don't have to pay for the second gas and populate it with lots of SCVs. Blocking off a scout for getting my base, however, I'm pretty sure he saw my expansion. Yeah, he did. Well, he definitely did with his overlord. So he's going to come out to harass. What I do is I pull two SCVs, actually, because this SCV might be pretty close to dead. I may end up having to pull him and sending him home. Depends where he runs to. That's a bad spot to run to, so I'm going to have to pull him off, send him home. And of course, the reason I pull two SCVs is that way I can put one on the drone and then put one back to completing this command center. As it turns out, this SCV actually kind of stayed alive, so it's able to use him. And yep, 150 gas. Worked out pretty well. 4 lings on the way, though. So let's speed this up a touch, and yeah, approach is not done, and not microwaving this. I probably could have saved at least one of those SCVs. And oh, yes! SCV separation. He's not going to be able to find me. Went the wrong way. Oh, well, that sucks. Beelining back for me. And bye-bye. They didn't even stop to kill me there. Ouch. So I think I like to open like 3 barracks, then get my factory, then my starport. I like to do one factory and 1 starport. You can do 2 factory, get more tanks, but I like to be very marine heavy instead. Just use the tanks as something to fall back to kill like the Balings and to give myself like that extra arm of range. Marines are obviously the damage dealers for Terran, so you really just got to worry about keeping Marines alive from their like infestor or Baling counters, and then you'll be alright. Zerg sending out a lot of lings across the map. Wow, he really wants sight of the expansion bases. This is almost a little bit overkill. I mean, he's got like 8 lings out. I mean, that kind of adds up. 1 doesn't add up, but 8 is... You could lose a battle where those 8 lings could help. I mean, 1 Zergling patrolling like these bottom 5 bases would be, I think, more than enough sight. Instead, he has 4 out, and he's not even looking at the most obvious expansion, which is this one. Moving in his Overlord from the really weird position. Like, I'm going to see this super early. So when I see that, you have to think, okay, am I being baited? This could definitely be a way to bait your Marines down to the low grounds for 2 reasons. One would be, you know, get all your Marines outside of your wall, and then you'll flood him with like speed links and like just mop them up. That's not a threat here, as you know, if he tries to mop me up in front of my fortress, he's going to be in for a rough hurt. The other reason is he might be trying to draw your army down to your natural, so he can come into your main base with another Overlord. So right before I moved these Marines down to kill that Overlord, I set up 1 Marine on a patrol here just to kind of spot for an Overlord coming in from the side. Also probably a good idea to do that anyways, just a spot for Nidus Worms. So set up that patrol. Now I'm moving my Marines down to finish him off. There we go, lower the supply depots, and we'll go kill this guy. Although he is going to get in range to see these 2 barracks, which is probably more than enough information for him. This is obviously means I'm going bio since I got the reactor and the tech lab. And the only thing that comes with bio is tanks, typically. And yep, so that was it. He was trying to draw me away so he could come in from the side, and if my Marine did catch that, so he wasn't able to spot any of this. But I think this should give him enough information. Saying on my wall to be bailing bus proof. I do have an army this time, so it's not that big of a threat, but at the same time, like, why not force him to waste a bunch of bailings if he goes for it? He's either going to have to blow through 2 supply depots, or just 1 engineering bay. Or he may have to blow through nothing, if I don't actually put these down. Oh, I'm really behind on catching this stuff. So what I did do is I set up a couple missile turrets here for zoning. Just so he can't really come in from this angle. I'll force him to come in more towards where my Marines are. And then obviously the top zoning is very important, as this is the most likely place he'll come in, as it's like just a beeline from his base. And it protects the mineral line. So he's actually going to ignore that zoning and just blow right through it, but oh, it's so nice to finally have an army. If I were doing mass Ravens right now, I'd just be losing all my SCVs, my Ravens would be scouted, and I'd be like frantically trying to throw down like feudal missile turrets that he would just be massing, blowing away. But an army. I mean, mass Ravens is cool, and you've seen the replays where I blow shit away, but you don't have an army with Ravens. There's so many things you take for granted in having an army, where like just like a small handful of mutas getting behind your missile turrets could like completely destroy you. So if you're at the units lost tab, you actually lost all those mutas. I like how this map there's not much like free roaming space behind your base, so the mutas can't have like, you know, float around freely and come in from any angle. That's why I really hate Tal'Darim Altar, or is that what it's called? Or something RE. I don't know. I got it thumbs down because there's so much space for them to come in from any angle with mutas, and mutas are annoying enough as Terran, let alone a map where it's like just set up for muta harass. So at this point, I'm getting ready to push out. I want to blow through these rock walls to come straight into his base. So, as you know, I have terrible APM, and I can't macro and micro at the same time. So what I do is I try to separate the two. And this is a technique you guys can use if you're, you know, not really fast either. So there's 2 things I'm doing. One is I threw down a bunch of supply depots. Look at my supply. I got 30 supply extra, so I won't have to worry about supply as I'm refueling my army. The other thing I did was I threw down a bunch of missile turrets. Like I had these 2 for zoning. Now I'm throwing down another one in my mineral line, a couple to protect my production zone, and then my expansion's well defended with the bunker and 3 missile turrets. So that way, if he tries to swing around behind with Mutalist to counterattack, even though all my Marines are gone, I'll still be quite well defended with the missile turrets. And then the supply depots are all covered. So the only thing I have to do while I'm attacking is hit 5, 6, and 7 just to keep my barracks, factories, and starports producing. Take a look at this SCV. He's going to run up against the rocks. Why did he do that? Do you remember my old thumbs up fact of the day? If you click your SCV right here, click your SCV right here, if your SCV just runs up against the rocks like this, that means he's not able to access this area, so I automatically know these rocks aren't blown out. If I click there and the SCV started running around this way, then I know I can actually reach this part and that these rocks are blown out. And this is important to know because Zergs will often blow out their own side of the rocks. Just so if you try to freely roam up here thinking it's safe, they'll come intercept you while you're not sieged up and just massacre your army. So now my SCV went up against these rocks. I know I'm safe to just move command up to this zone and then start blowing away here without having to scan or having to siege up early and slow push. And anytime you have to slow push, it does buy the Zerg time to get an army up, so it's nice to be able to get right up here and start already siege up. That's what I'm doing. Blowing through the rocks at the same time, getting a nice siege tank set up here. Now, instead of Balings, he's chosen to go Infestor. This is something I haven't seen often. I only faced it once. I spot it right here and immediately move back. But it wasn't quite in time. That was a really good fungal growth. Notice how it caught 8 Marines and a tank and a Medivac and an SCV. So that's 36 damage times however many units. That's a lot of damage. It could have been a lot worse though. If I didn't pull this back, he might have caught everything with one fungal or pretty close to it, which would have just devastated my push, especially if you followed it up with a second fungal. Which is what you can do. Once you freeze a blob and a fungal, why not just throw out another fungal? You already got them set up as a blob and unable to move. Luckily I got a good number of Medivacs, so I can kind of counter the fungal effect here. He's going to try to follow it up with another fungal here, and he's going to lose 2 infestors in doing so. And really didn't kill any units. My Medivacs are all on top of that. So here I'm pushing in, but I'm being careful not to blob up. I'm separating my units, Boom, there he fungals. 4 Marines. Terrible fungal growth. Another fungal right there. I think he hit the same 4 Marines and 1 extra one. So that second fungal hit 1 Marine. Another fungal. Boom. He hits 6 Marines. These are all terrible. And remember, he doesn't have Balings. He's relying on this to kill all my Marines. Another fungal growth. He hits 4 Marines. This worked out terribly for him. And I still have all these Marines in the back. He's got his roaches on hold position, but they're in tank range anyway, so this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And yeah, now I'm in great shape, and if I were macroing properly, which of course I'm not, even though I simplified the macro for myself, I'm still not staying on top of it. At this point when you see this, I got to throw down another factory and some more barracks. And slow pushing with the tanks at the same time, just kind of slowly moving up my Marines. And yeah, his 6 infestors, he lost 2 of them down to 4, and the other ones are very low in energy. Only one can actually throw down fungal. Throwing down some infested Terrans. This is for 2 reasons. One is he's desperate. When you see this, you should feel pretty safe that he doesn't have fungal growth energy. And the second is if you throw it right beside a siege tank, your other siege tanks will blast at it, and the splash damage will kill your own tanks. So pulling up my Marines now, just because he's trying to snipe my tanks. Yeah, you don't want your tanks leading, but at the same time you don't want your Marines just sitting out front just saying, fungal me! You need your tanks to be the buffer against the infestors. It's kind of hard not to get your tanks sniped for that reason. Like I said, I'm feeling really confident. I saw those infested Terrans down. I know his energy's low. If you're really intensive, you can actually look at his infestors when they move in and see how much energy they have, but I kind of missed that. Production tab. Well, I'm making 8 Marines at a time, but it's not enough. One trick you can actually do is rather than throwing down barracks with reactors like I did, I got 5 barracks with reactors. Instead of that, throw down 9 barracks and have them naked with no reactors. That way, if you're getting a push like this, where you find your macro slipping, you can just quickly throw down some reactors. You already have the infrastructure up, so you just got to throw down reactors and you can catch up really quick. That way you just have to hit your barracks hotkey and hit RRR and you got a bunch of reactors. Thinking it's R, right? No, it's C. I don't know my hotkeys. I know what to press it, It's kind of like knowing a phone number. Like, you don't actually know what the phone number is, but if you have a phone in front of you, you can type it in. It's more the muscle memory of it. But yeah, it's very easy to click 5 and click CCC. It's rather than having to like quick pan back to your base, find some SCVs, go build some barracks, add them to your hotkey. Just simplifies things. Now you'll notice when you go up against infestors, the first battle will often go badly, just because it's a big ball versus a big ball, and that's just great for fungal growth. But if you keep following up with more and more units and keep keeping the pressure on, things will get better for you, because both your armies will get smaller, so the fungal growth won't be as effective. As fungal growth energy will dissipate, you'll be having to constantly build new units, and you don't want to build infestors when you're desperate, because infestors are useless until they get their energy up. So he's going to be building more roach, so there won't be any new infestors. The existing infestors will lose their energy. And the other thing is, even though our armies keep getting smaller and smaller, Medivacs will survive all these battles. So your Medivac count will keep getting larger. And a large Medivac count when you have a small army is so effective. Like, you just saw that in the last battle. I almost had like a Medivac per Marine. Like, everything was getting healed. So where in the first battle I had like 4 Medivacs and like 30 Marines, now I got like 8 Medivacs and 15 Marines or something like that. So it makes the healing ratio really, really good. Took out his Roach Warren. Making Bailings, that's smart. Like I said, you still need the counter to Marines, but you don't want to build infestors this late. And if you lost your infestors, it's probably better just to switch to Bailings, as that's something that can immediately get in the game. Kill the Creep Tumor, move back, let the tank pop the Bailings. Which is obviously the point of the tanks. Marines are the damage output, the tanks are just, they one-shot Bailings, so they're good counter to the Bailings. As long as you move your Marines away from the Bailings, the tanks will do all the work for you. I also caught sight of this creep, so I know he has this third base. I'm actually going to go after that. He has a fourth up in the corner here as well, but if I take out this third, I'm pretty sure I'll win the game. Stimming in, leaving this tank alone, he notices that and comes in this direction, so I kind of try to shoot this stuff in the low grounds. Doesn't work out too well. Bailings rolling in, I'm not microing that, but they did not hit many Marines. They just hit the few on the ramp. I still got all these other ones clustered in the back. He's getting my reinforcement line, which kind of sucks, but he did not hurt this army much at all. I still got the giant Marine force. Fleeing his drones through my Marines, never a good idea. Roaches are down. Mutalists, I guess, are trying to cut off reinforcements. They're going for this solo Medivac. Not a big deal, as I already have a zillion Medivacs anyways. And he just walks right into its death. And that is GG. So yeah, probably a few notes in this replay that I haven't really covered in other ones. When he sends an Overlord in, like, from a weird angle, like just like say straight into your front or something like that, always be wary that it's as Destiny would put it, the retard magnet. Is he trying to draw you down the ramp for a reason that could really hurt you? Like, say I didn't have the planetary fortress, he could just quickly surround me with a bunch of speedlings and wipe out that force just because I was trying to kill an Overlord. Or in this case, he was trying to draw my army down the ramp so he could come in from the side with an Overlord, so I did try to spot that. Yeah, Typhoon Peaks, I highly suggest if you spawn vertically with your opponents, well, especially a Zerg opponents, take advantage of this back lane. It really cuts the rush distance down, so it's a short rush. I mean, you can see from natural to natural, it's just, it's basically one screen away. It's a really short rush distance. And the other nice thing is it's impossible for him to get a good flank. Often, like, Zergs will try to come at you from behind with Speedlings and then come at you at the front with Bailings. And the Speedlings will kind of lock you in so you can't actually move backwards. And then the Bailings will just, like, overrun your Marine count. So, yeah, no chance for flanks, where if I came around this way, he could just set up leave a pile of Speedlings out over here, and then when I come into this zone, once I walk onto the creep, he just flood the Speedlings from behind, the Bailings from the front, goodbye. And then, yeah, infestors. I never really knew how to deal with them until this game. Like, I'd only faced them like twice, since I don't really play Standard versus Zerg very often, and Infestors only became popular in that recent patch where their DPS doubled with Fungal. So versus Banelings, it's okay to have all your Marines clustered together. You just kind of move them in as a ball, attack. When you see the Banelings, you run back as a ball and let your tanks just flood the Banelings. And you can do some splitting, but it's not necessary. But you can't do that versus Infestors. If you siege up and then run in all your Marines as a ball, that ball is just going to disappear to fungal growth. You can't run away after when you see Infestors. You got to keep them split beforehand. What you gotta do is you almost gotta accept your first attack will go badly. I mean, I kind of got lucky whereas fungals were terrible. Like, this one was good because I wasn't ready for it. So then after this, I was just kind of trying to keep my Marines from, like, that fungal was a good one, but it didn't actually kill anything because of my Medivacs. And I was keeping stuff separated, and you throw down a bunch of really crappy fungal growths here. But assuming that doesn't happen, often your first attack will go badly. But as long as you keep flooding in more and more units, it'll get better and better and better for you. The first one will go bad because you both have giant armies, and it's really good for its fungal. But then the next attack is going to have less fungal growth energy, and your armies will be smaller. And the next attack, your armies will be even smaller, and he'll have less fungal growth energy. And that means obviously he's not able to throw down as many fungals, and since both your army counts are smaller, the fungals won't be as effective. And between all these battles, your Medivac count is actually getting bigger, not smaller. So, like, where you can see here, I have 2 Marines in that. Well, I guess we can just look at the units tab. I got 4 medics covering 23 Marines. Actually, back up a touch to when it started. Yeah, 40 Marines and 4 Medivacs. So the healing ratio is not great, but later on, you can see my Medivac count is getting bigger, so now it's 7, and my Marine count is getting smaller. So 7 to 16. I almost got 1 Medivac for every 2 Marines. So that means your healing becomes super effective, and these small battles versus like small battles with roaches, the Marines just tear right through them because of the amount of healing you have going on. So that's how I deal with infestors. Just keep the aggression going. Just keep it going, and eventually they'll collapse. They'll run out of energies, their fungals become less effective, and you'll win the game. And it's often timed. This is often timed with when they're taking like their 4th or 5th hatcheries, and if you don't let them spend their larvae on drones, those hatcheries won't be too effective. Force them to constantly keep creating units. And yeah, I guess the other point was, if you suck at macro like me, get down a lot of supply before you push out. I often just kind of shut down my marine production right before I push out, and just use that extra saved up minerals to throw down a bunch of supply depots, so I don't have to worry about that during the push, and to throw up some missile turrets. As before, I was reliant on my marines stopping any mutaharass, but when you push out with your marines, you got to rely on missile turrets to stop mutaharass. And that's a typical Zerg strategy, is when they know you're pushing out, they'd flood in your back and just clean you up with Mutalisks, because they know your Marines and Thors or whatever you happen to have is out on the battlefield. Yeah, I think that's about all I have to cover. Yeah, the one adjustment I would definitely make is don't get any reactors. Instead, just build a bunch more barracks. I mean, it's basically the same cost. The reactor's 50-50, another barracks is 150, so 100 more minerals at the cost of 50 gas. I mean, that's not much different. And the advantage to that is, say, like in this case here, where I have to throw down more production, I got to move, like during the battle, I'll have to move my screen back here, find some SCVs, build some barracks, shift-click my SCVs back to mining, wait till these barracks start getting produced so I can actually add them to my hot group, and then move back here. And that's the extreme amount of time. But if I did it the other way, where I just built like the 9 barracks ahead of time with no reactors, then I'm out here and I'm like, oh shoot, I need to add more production. I'll just hit my hotkey for my barracks and hit C a bunch of times, add on the reactors, and I can do that whole thing while I'm watching the battle. I don't actually have to go back to my base for any reason. And then once the reactors are done, I'll easily be able to catch up and spend all this money. The only thing you want to go back for at some point probably is to throw down a third base, because with this constant aggression you will mine out, obviously. So throw down a third base, and then if you're like me and you weren't spending your orbital energy well, the new fresh base is a great place to throw down 4 mules. So I'm definitely babbling, and I probably said everything twice, but it's kind of new information, so it's alright, just trying to dig it into your brains there. So obviously I have a lot to learn in this matchup. Spending my money is one thing, and I'm sure you guys saw a lot of micro mistakes. I'm kind of happy with how it worked versus the infestors, although that's more Zerg's problem or Zerg's screw up than my good micro, but just making sure you just only have a handful of Marines at the front and keep the rest back. Wait for that fungal energy to go down. You just don't want to get the giant blob hit by the fungal. That's just so painful. Anyways, yes, thumbs up fact of the day. We'll jump right into that.
Oh boy, I'm hotter than a June bug riding bareback on the hind leg of a jackrabbit with his tail on fire.
Alright, for today's thumbs up fact of the day, I want to talk about usage of siege tanks in this sort of marine tank Medivac push. And that's there's some micro techniques you should have and awareness you should have. First of all, first thing you should be aware of, if Zerg attacks you when you are unsieged, you will die horribly. So, you don't ever want to get caught in that position. Like if Zerg hit me now with, say, like the Zergling Baling Mutaball, these tanks will be doing very little damage, as they're not doing any splash damage. And then you have to decide, well, do I leave them unsieged and do very little damage, or do I siege them up where they'll be doing absolutely no damage for the 2 or 3 seconds it takes for them to siege? It's just kind of pick your poison sort of idea. And then at the same time, since they're not sieged up, they're not popping all the Balings, which means it's going to be very hard to keep any Marines alive. Even if you split them well, the Balings are still going to wreak havoc on your Marines. It's just not a situation you want to be in. So in the last match, you see I went through the back alley and I saw that his back rocks were still up, so I was able to safely just move up to his back rocks and then siege up there and start the slow push. But if you're moving out, a few things you want to do. One is I would take a handful of Marines outside of your base before you push and try to see if there's any scout Zergling. Kill a Zergling outside of your base, if there's a Zelnaga tower on the way, go clear the Zelnaga tower. Just so he won't be super aware when you push out, because if he sees you come out with your entire force, he'll probably try to intercept you, hit you with a flank, or do something along those lines to catch you when you're unsieged. So, assuming you can move out safely, what I suggest you do is you just attack move. Like have Marine setups too. And then once you hit the creep, siege up, and throw down a scan. That serves a couple of purposes. One, obviously it blows away his creep tumor, the scan, and two, just giving that extended range, you can see if there's Balings coming in, and they'll let you either pull your Marines back really quickly, it'll give the extra sight to your siege tanks so they can start popping the Balings. That's our idea. So why do I go up to the edge of the creep before I siege up? Well, there's 2 reasons. One, his creep tumors will give him sight, so he'll see your unsieged tanks. So obviously you don't want to keep traveling through the creep unsieged or he'll just get slaughtered for previously stated reasons. And 2 is the creep gives him a giant speed bonus. So like speed Balings on creep with that speed bonus as well are really, really fast, and you gotta react, even with stimmed Marines, you gotta react fast to pull your Marines out of range, as they're barely faster than Balings on creep. And when you're pulling your Marines back, obviously you want your tanks sieged up to pop all those Balings, otherwise those Marines are short for life. So this is a typical spot you'll get to. Obviously you want to keep funneling all your new units here. I like to have my barracks and factories, like maybe either I'll just rally everything to, let's say, this point, I'll keep changing the rally, or I'll rally like all my ground units onto my tank and all my medevacs onto a medevac sort of idea. So everything will constantly keep moving forward with my push. So once you get to this edge of the creep area, blow away the creep, which is obviously nice, you want to keep pushing forward to kill his base, obviously. So you gotta slow push with your tanks. And when you slow push with your tanks, you don't want to do this. You don't want to move, like, slow everything out and then move forward and then siege up again, because he's going to see that. And he's going to catch all your stuff on siege, and it's going to be really deadly. So what you want to do is you take the back tank, maybe 2 tanks at a time, but in this case I'll just do 1 at a time. You unsiege it, you move it forward, and then you siege it up. And that way, while this is moving, you're still protected by all these siege tanks, so you can't really come in and intercept. So you're just going 1 at a time, slowly moving forward, and sieging up. But you can see this takes a long time, and it's very micro-intensive. So, very important you learn to do this the quick way. It's probably obvious to a lot of you, but if you don't do this, it's a definite skill you need. What you do is you press D to unsiege. Then you hold Shift, click a forward point, and hit E for siege up. And that way it all gets done almost instantaneously. So I'll do it quickly. D, Shift, move forward, E. Done. And then you can go back to, like, you know, poking around with your Marines. Oh, there's some Bailings. Okay, I'll move back. And in the meantime, this tank is doing all the work by itself. And always take the back tank and move it forward. That way these other tanks are already set up and will protect this tank as it's moving to its next position. And that's how you slow push with tanks. If you have enough tanks, say you got like 6 or 7 tanks, then you don't need to do them 1 at a time. You can do them 2 at a time. Just go like this and move forward and press E. Oops. Okay, that was terrible.
Go ahead.
Unsiege, move forward, and press E. You can also just take another one and split it off if you don't want them sieging up right beside each other, which sometimes you don't always do. Obviously when Bailings hit siege tanks, it's bad for Zerg, but if they can hit 2 siege tanks at once, then it's not so bad. Yeah, just basically the micro is very easy against a typical Zergling Bailing Muta mix. Just use your Marines as your firepower. Keep them from getting splashed by Bailings. Anytime you see Bailings, just stim and run away. Let your tanks KO the Bailings. And always be wary of Mutas kind of hanging around looking for tank snipes. Like, I might have my Marines up here doing some attacks, and what the Zerg will do is he'll come in with his Mutas from behind and quickly snipe these 2 tanks. So you want some Marines, either split them up, keep some Marines back, or just watch the mini-map and quickly intercept those Mutas when you see them swing around. Obviously you can't kind of move this as a ball versus the infestors, but I think I covered that more or less in the game, how to deal with the infestors. Just constant aggression and try not to ball up all your units. So with that, we'll call it the end of the thumbs up fact of the day, and once again, D, Shift, move, E. And that's how you do it. Sweet. Hello everyone, and welcome to another Starcraft 2 replay. This one's going to take place on Typhoon Peaks. I am the blue Terran, spawning in the bottom right-hand position, and in the top right we have Dunpeel. Yeah, that's probably how I say it. Spawning in the top right. I've already said that, haven't I? He's a Zerg, and he's Dunpeel. Spawning in the top right, and he's a Zerg. Let's restart.